Hi, good evening. Hello to everyone. Welcome to the third day of Starknet Basecamp, Developer Basecamp. Today we are going to focus on Cairo development. So I trust you had a fulfilling weekend and you've come feeling refreshed for today's session. So on stage we have Dalmas Ogembo who took us through last week's session. We also have Timothy Agevi, who is taking us through the Cairo development session. Feel free to ask questions. Today's class will be a little bit different because anybody who has a question will drop the link so that you are invited to our studio to verbally ask your questions, or still, if you prefer, you can ask on the comment section, but you have the liberty of joining our studio this evening. Last week, some assignment was left by our tutor. I think towards the end of the lesson, we'll also review them. We shared a link and we'll still share a link here for the GitHub repo where you'll be submitting your assignments to. Then thirdly, also, we are working in partnership with Starknet as usual, and also with Kiboko DAO. So Kiboko DAO will also be sharing links to their resources in this session. So feel most welcome. I'll be hosting you. My name is Harriet. Yeah, I'm the co-founder of BChain Africa. Feel most welcome. We look forward to having an interactive and engaging session. So also we'll be sharing the attendance list. Make sure to fill it. The magic number is today's date. So feel free also to fill that attendance form. Thank you. And without much further ado, I'll pass the session to our today's instructor, Mr. Timothy Agevi. The stage is yours. Over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Name is Timothy Agevi. Today, I'll be taking you guys through Cairo programming. I know through the previous sessions, that must took you through the introduction and how to set up your environment. So today I'll just have a short recap about that. Then we can dive into an overview of its syntax, its benefits. Then we can finish up with some challenges just to see if we have understood. Okay. Let me just present my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. You can carry on.
So previously, I'm sure you guys went through setting up the environment where major stuff you need is just Trust, Scab, which is the package manager, and VS Code, which is majorly the most popular text editor for developers. So these were some of the stuff you had gone through. You are able to install Rust and Cargo. Then you're able to also install Starknet Foundry, which is just a framework like the way we had in Solidity Foundry. Also, Starknet has Foundry. Then Scab, which is a package manager. For any of you here who comes from a JavaScript background, I know you're familiar with npm or yarn. So in Cairo, its equivalent is Scab. Go through that. I'm just reminding you the things you are able to achieve. And so when you wanted to set up Foundry, I'm sure you use the install from Foundry book. Here is the link. also for VS Code. So quick first can give you a quick intro to what Cairo is and why Cairo. So Cairo basically is the language which is used to write smart contracts on Starknet. As you all know, Starknet is a layer 2 and it's a zero knowledge, it uses zero knowledge proofs. As you are aware, all most chains, EVM chains, their main purpose is trying to scale Ethereum. And in that essence, there are normally two types of like layer 2. We have the optimistic rollups and we have the zero knowledge proof rollups. So the major difference is that optimistic rollups, as we all know, in the name optimistic, they normally first post a transaction. They're optimistic, they believe every transaction after it has been completed on the layer 2, it's immediately posted on layer 1 Ethereum. And then they have a wait time to verify if it was actually correct or wrong. It's optimistic. It's optimistic that that transaction is correct. But for zero knowledge, it has to prove once it has been, for example, you've done a transaction on Starknet. I've sent, for example, Dalmas some 10 star tokens and it has already been completed on StackScan. You can see it's completed. Before it gets verified on Ethereum, it just sends Ethereum a proof, a small proof. It's called a stack, ZK stack, to verify, which are smaller in terms of computation to verify that that transaction was right. On the other hand, now, narrowing down to Cairo, Cairo is basically a language that writes provable programs. So once you write a smart contract with Cairo, it automatically generates for you like proofs. So there's no need of trying to write ZK circuits. It comes with that on hand. So importance of Starknet. I'm sure you guys are aware of this, the normal scalability, how it enhances decentralized applications, trustless and privacy preserving. So yeah. So the Cairo syntax. I'd like to give you a brief of Cairo syntax. So in Cairo, functions are basically denoted by the name fn. So like you can take this example, we have written fn add, and then you have this arrow dash and forward arrow slash, then the return type, which is U32. So this means this function it returns a result, which it returns a result. So basically what is that result? It's of which data type? You all know in programming, we have different data types. We have strings, we have integers, we have arrays. So majorly in Cairo, once you see this syntax, it has the keyword function, the function name, and then the data type of the data being returned. So in this case, it's a U32 because it's a number. It's an add function where we have specified one variable as a, we have given it a value of 5. Another variable, we have named it b, we have given it a variable of 10. And the end product is a plus b, which is 15. And which data type is that? It's a U32. So below I'll come and narrow down and teach you the various data types Cairo has. So as I said, we have integers. We also have strings. We have fields. We have arrays. We have enums. We have structs. I'll also come narrow down to them. Just an important one by the way before I go further. Strings in Cairo are enclosed only with single quotes or double quotes. We don't use backticks. That's something one time got an error for love. Then they only to realize that strings in Cairo, you have just to enclose them with any single ticks or double ticks. So the major data types, as I mentioned, they are fields and integers. Then integers, we normally have integers of different sizes. We can have 8 bits, which is now denoted by U8, with 16 bits, denoted by U16, with 64 bit U64. That drill. Then for integers, we have the normal operations such as sum, addition. We have division, which is also denoted by minus. We have multiplication, division, which is the forward slash. So in terms of operations, we had the arithmetic ones. Then we also have comparison operations, where we have is equal, denoted by two equal signs. It's not equal, the not, as we are not, the exclamation mark, which means not. Then we have the and, which is denoted by two ampersands. The or, which is denoted by these two lines. Don't know if people on the call can actually talk.
Yes, Tim, we can hear you.
Ah, very nice, nice, nice. I like hearing your sound. What is this sign called actually? I know it's denoted for or.
Or
What's it called in English?
so those are like two pipes.
Those pipes.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're called pipes. Yeah, let us call them
it's
just pipes.
pipe. Yeah.
So majorly denotes the or. Then we have the felt to 52. So for felt to 52 is one of the large data type. It carries a lot of memory. And felt, if I'm not wrong, can be used actually for like strings. So sometimes strings and numbers. You use felt. Felt 258. Then, so at least up to now, we have known like the data types, which are common data types. We have also been able to understand some of the operations which are done by integers, the arithmetic ones and the logical ones. Another important thing you'll do once you're coding is to comment your code so that you can understand what are you doing. So in order to write comments, you have different ways. If it's just a single line in your code, you can use the hash sign and you write the comment. So comment, these are parts of your code which you explain in your code. They are not code, but the explanations of your code. Then if they are a long piece of explanations, you use these signs. This just ensures maintainability and clarity. Someone else who is reading your code can understand what you're doing. So let's write some simple functions. For example, the add function. In Cairo, we also have parameters. We all know parameters. These are variables which represent arguments that the function can hold. So for example, in the function add, we're all sure it takes in like two numbers. So we can just specify them A and B. And it also returns another number, which we have given its data type as felt 32. So in Cairo, all you need, just like any other language, you can now write return A plus B. So in this function, all the time the user will now be passing in two arguments. They can pass in function add, maybe 5, 2, it returns an answer, or 7, 10, and it returns an answer. Then one key thing you need to note when you're returning something, in Cairo, you can either say return explicitly, say return A plus B, or you can leave out the return keyword and just say A plus B and then don't include this semicolon, it will still return. This is the same here as I was telling you about parameters. So parameters, as I all told you, these are variables which represent values that will be passed into a function. Then the actual values are actually called arguments. The representation are called parameters. Another example how they have been used. Then another important thing in Cairo. So before I go to first, let me share my screen. VS Code, I show you some of these data types. So here we can see my other screen.
Not yet. Your VS Code is not up to us. It's not yet here, so you can check that one out.
Okay, let me just a moment. The address is trying to edit, but yes, I've managed to edit. Let me share this screen. Let me share this other screen of mine. So me just start again so I can able to see what I'm doing. So in Starknet, as we've previously learned, if you want to start a new project, you can always use the command scab new, then the project name. Then it will come with the default src, the .git ignore, and the scab folder. So what I was just trying to illustrate the different data type. We talked about comment and code. How you comment your code. So some of the codes we were talking about, the data types I was talking about was the strings. We had the strings, the felt 252. Then you have other structs, data types such as structs. So majorly, it's normally a good practice not to actually write code on the scab.toml because it's like your package.json. So instead, mostly we have files called, you can create a lib.cairo. Lib.cairo. And within this file is where you can write your code, but we'll get here. Just wanted at least to show you actually on practice how you initialize a new Starknet project. So let me just come back to this place. We'll get the session where we'll get to the part where we'll go deep dive onto the code. For now, let me first pass you through the syntax. Yeah, so we are here, basic operations, the data types, the commenting of code. Guys, remember how to comment code. Then writing of functions also, the parameters and the return. Then as you've seen, running a cargo script, like the first one was there, Scabo. It was scab new, then the project name. And if you wanted to run it, you majorly use scab cargo run. So at least up to now we have known data types, we have known operations. It's also good to understand the control structures. So in cargo we also have eval statements, and then we don't have the while loop, but we have just loop. So in this example, it's just a comparison. If x is greater than y, let z assign x to the variable z. Else let z be assigned this y. That's the normal control structure. As I was mentioning before, loops. So instead of for loop, or the while loop, here you just declare the initial variable, then you compare them inside a loop. The end, if I is equals to 10, you can break. If not, you can keep incrementing. So it will go. So for example, in this example, I will start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it reaches 10, it breaks, it stops from there. So at least it will print out 1 to 10. Alternatively, also in Cairo, we also have a recursion. You can also do it that way. Then another very important concept you also need to know is the memory allocation in Cairo. Cairo, like other hard typed languages, for example, Rust, it borrows this. For example, if you assign a variable a and you say, for example, let a be equal to value 5, and then lower down in your code, you try and assign another value, let a be equals to 10. It will throw an error because in memory it knows very well a is assigned 5. So, and if you want to change it, you have to use the word mute, because most all variables in Cairo by default are immutable. So up to there, I think you've gotten a good grasp of Cairo. I would like to recommend some resources. I'd like to recommend some resources, majorly the Cairo book. It's quite good. It's the Bible for Cairo. Then another one is Starklinks. Those challenges, once you go through challenges in Starklinks, can give you quite a good understanding. So instead of going too much in the too much talk and stuff, you can enter into tutorial help. I think it would be good if we challenge ourselves with some questions from Stacklinks actually. Then let me just show you which one is this. So up to there, is there first anyone who has a question? Any questions? Is there any questions?
Yes, yes. Tim, there is a question from somebody saying, is that not where shadowing comes in? Just on the comment section.
Yes, this is where the concept of shadowing comes in. As I said earlier, by default, all variables um, in Cairo are immutable. So if you want to mutate it, you'll actually use the mute keyword, then you bring in some shadowing. Time to get our hands dirty now. So at least you've known the syntax, you've understood functions, you've understood the control loops, you've understood the control loops, you've also understood the data types. It's best to get our hands dirty and see whether we have actually understood. So as I recommended, the best way to learn Cairo, actually Cairo is a very sweet language because there's not too much noise. As long as you just read the Cairo book, which is the Bible, the documentation, which is quite straightforward, and practice with these challenges of Starklinks, you're good to go. So the app, if you want to access Starklinks, you can clone the repo and do the challenges, or you can also access it through the browser. It's http starklinks.app, and it has a different sections, challenges from beginner all the way until smart contracts. So let us start from the start. So number one, intro. Let me connect, maybe it's not connecting my data. So welcome to Starknet version 1. This exercise doesn't do anything, yet it still compiles Cairo file. Needs to have a main function so that the file is a valid Cairo. Other exercises will require you to write code to make the exercise file complete. This was too easy. Just telling us to have the main function. So this is like the entry point for any Cairo project to run. So this one we have completed. This one they have felt mercy for us. Let's go to maybe challenge 2. So, can you make it compile? How is it taking so long? Let me just refresh. You know, I don't know why it's taking so long. Just connect to GitHub. So remember my password. Let me hide if you don't see my password. Just a moment. Let me just enter my password in Gmail. So this is a challenge. No, it's not loading. The challenge. It's not loading Starknet. Intro 2, I don't know, it's not loading. If someone could share their screen, their Starklinks app, open it up and share the screen, we solve these questions together. I don't know why on my side it's not compiling.
Hello, Timothy. I think you need to zoom in for a better visibility.
It's actually, code is not compiling this. Someone else can share their screen, open Starklink and share your screen. For mine, I don't know. It's not loading. There should be a challenge here. It should be an exercise for us to solve. So true. And then the audience maybe can open Starklinks from their side. We solve this together.
So I have them up and running, team, so we can proceed.
Okay. So I can stop sharing my screen. You're sharing yours?
Yes.
Very nice, very nice. Let me stop sharing mine. I can solve those challenges together from your side.
So we have the first one here, just an intro to Cairo. Welcome to Starknet App. So this one was covered by Tim. This exercise doesn't do anything yet, but it still compiles Cairo file getting run. So needs to have the main function.
Hey, Dalmas, your fonts are very tiny. Would you mind zooming in
Oh, okay. Sorry for
out
that.
for
Let me do.
visibility?
Is that one visible? Uh, I
Yeah,
think.
that's visible. So I think that
Okay.
one was fine.
Okay. There. Okay. So if I go to
Let's
the
click
next,
compile.
yeah. So
I think I've understood why this one, the challenge with this one. You just need to write maybe function fn main brackets then function. Oh yes, I think this one is because as it told us before, every Cairo function has to have a main. Every Cairo file in order to compile has to have the main function. So maybe try just click compile. Yes. And go maybe to the next challenge. So variables. So make me compile function main, then it says x is equals to 5, then it prints line, and it outputs as string x is equals to a dollar sign. So the simplest way what could have gone wrong here, the variable. So I think the main problem here, you want, you can also put x instead of print line. You can also write x dot print. Let's try that too, if it will work. Then maybe we can add the use debug print state. Capital T. Yes. Then maybe you can remove the print line. The print line because it will be repetition, yes.
So the next test we have here is variables, of course, like part two of them. So the equation we have currently is make me compile. That is the thing. For you to identify such of this or kind of these errors, first you can sort of try run the compile button. Then you realize here in this case we are being told missing token terminal EQ. So that's the error we currently have. So you need to identify the error here and then proceed with the compiling. So team, so we need to solve the error missing token terminal EQ. That's what we have. So to solve this, in Cairo currently you cannot like just initialize your variable like this and leave it hanging. What you can do is to initialize it with a given value. If you don't really have any value to initialize with, at least you can initialize it with the 0 in order to make your value sort of have, or your variable have some value. So in this case, we have initialized it with the 10. So let's try and compile and see what we have. So if we do compile like that, you realize our value sort of, or our exercise sort of compiles successfully. So let's try out the next exercise. The next exercise is make me compile also. So let x is a felt 252, print line x. So what the error is here. So this is what we were talking about, the data types team had covered earlier. What's a felt 252? So a felt 252 is sort of a global variable in Cairo. It can allow you to store both numbers and both strings, except you can't like interact between, like try to use the two in together. If you know you are just having felt 252s as strings, make sure you are only dealing with strings. But if you know your felt 252 is a number, deal with it as a number. So felt 252 is just like another global variable there in JavaScript that is let x equals to username, while let x equals to 1. So it's sort of global like that. Let's see what the error is. If we try to compile this one, we also find missing token terminal EQ. So we need to resolve this one. So as I said, terminal EQ, it's like you can't like just initialize it, let x equal to let x type and leave it there. You have to sort of give it an initial value in order, like you have to have like your equal signs there and give it a value. Otherwise, without that equal signs, then it's going to result into some unwanted result. That's just for a number. But also, as I said, file 252 can hold strings. So type here, for example, I can just type here Dalmas and try to print out or try to run this. Oh, I went to the, okay, let me go back to variables 3. Think I went there too fast. So here I can sort of do a string, for example, Dalmas, and try to compile. So this one is complaining terribly, cannot be created from a string literal. String literal, okay. So, okay, there's this things that usually give problems here in terms of Cairo, the double quotes and quotes. Yeah, so I failed to also for your string literals, use a single quote, don't use double quotes. That's another thing. So if you just want to store things like emails, for example, just use a single quotes for your program. Otherwise, double quotes will result to the error that we had seen here. So Tim earlier had covered or talked about using backticks And for those who do not know backticks, what they are, there is this thing that we usually use there in JavaScript to concatenate our strings. So for this one here also, it will, let's try to compile and see what we have. Our screen can be zoomed in. Yeah, so let me just Control plus. I don't know whether that one is visible. I think I'll use this. Yeah, I think that one adds up. So this is what we have. So you can't use like backticks. Either can you use double quotes when doing your string literals. So you have to just sort of use single quotes. So that's a file 252. It can hold both numbers and strings, of course, but with just a single quote. So let's look at the
Excuse me,
variables.
Dalmas.
Yes.
People can't see your screen. The fonts are rather too tiny.
Okay. Then I've
Yeah.
tried to
Zoom
add
it.
this. Is that one visible enough? Uh,
Yeah, I think I've resolved my issue. I can present.
okay. Yeah. So Tim, you can proceed then. I think. Solomon, confirm whether you can see my screen, like the fonts are readable. Actually, I could do something like this. I didn't notice. Uh, and my screen seems to have frozen at some point. Okay, there we go. So let's see what we have next. Under variables 4, make me compile. So the problem with this is that we're going to see the error correctly. Right, there we go. So oops, something went wrong with your code. Cannot assign an immutable variable. X5, don't change this line to, okay. So we have been told like we cannot change this value, but we need to make this code compile, but we don't need to change line 4. So how do we achieve that one? So to achieve this one, we need to make our variable x here to be mutable by introducing the mute keyword. So that is let is a keyword to, of course, define variables, and also we have const for constants. So mute is to make it mutable. Tim had illustrated earlier that if you just have like let x equals to 3, that's like by default immutable, you cannot change. But to make it, to be able to change it, you need to introduce another keyword that is mute to make it to be able to be changed. So let mute x equals to, so let's try this out. So we get that one complete. So you have to introduce the mute keyword if you know your variable is going to change. So let's have this variables 5. And here we have let number equals to 1 underscore u8. Don't change this line. And also we have the next line, print line number is this number. And the number equals to 3. Don't rename this variable. So what happens here, if we try to compile this one, we'll end up having the same or the previous error that we had, like this thing is immutable. So that is something went wrong with your code, failed to compile, cannot assign to an immutable variable. So how can we solve this? If you have been following through the charts, we have something to do with shadowing, and somebody had asked what isn't this shadowing. So Rust has like shadowing where you sort of shadow the previous variable. So, and to do that one, you simply sort of introduce the keyword here let, and you just shadow the before variable. So if I try to compile this one, we'll have it up and running. So this is the so shadowing, borrowed from Rust, of course, as it is. So yeah, and the one underscore U8, for those who are not familiar with that kind of naming convention, is just to tell our number, in this case is a U8, that's unsigned integer, 8 bits. That's what we have, 1 underscore U8. So that's how you introduce other numbers. Let's say a U256. So you can write the number, then underscore something. So that's one way of like writing numbers when it comes to Cairo. So also you can do something like, okay, I think I need to go to the end of the line, do that, and do let num1 or num2 equals to, you can do things like this, and your values will still run correctly. So let's try it out. So I'm just going to sort of rename that value. Okay, I went to the next value instead of like remaining where I was. And I was explaining how to like write this number. So let num2 equals to 1 underscore 00. So that's my num2. So I can just replace it here, num2. Don't know whether this one will compile this juncture or it has some sort of checks. Oh, okay. Oh, I need to introduce the let here, of course. So don't change this line. Unused variable, consider ignoring by prefixing it, which this one. I think this one, number that we didn't use. So I can comment it out. Yeah, so this is another way of writing large numbers in your contract. Usually this is helpful. For example, you have something like a fee that you want to charge somebody in your contract, and for example, you want to charge this guy maybe 0.001 ETH in your contract. So you can use this one in order for you to sort of track how many zeros you have written. 0.001 has 16 zeros, so 16. Yep. So if I do another underscore like that, another one, so we are at 9, 12, then 16. That's 0.001 ETH, because ETH has 18 decimals as a token itself. So that's how you represent this in your contract. This makes your work readable than having a number like this one. So this totally, and you can't like read through this value if you were to follow or try to rewrite this code or what it meant. So I'm going to return this one the way it was, just to make sure like everything works as expected. So I'm going to compile it again and then proceed to the next variable. So we are at variable 6, and here we have const number equals to 3 and const small number equals to 3 underscore U8. Don't change this value, the value of this constant. So that's what we have been told, and we are supposed to make this code compile. So first, let's identify the problem with this code. And that's another skill that you want to use when doing your contracts or when you're doing your general programming. Always run your code, run your program, try to identify the error where it is, then try to solve it. Sometimes it's really hard to just solve it directly. So we have here const number 3. Something went wrong with your code, failed to compile. Unexpected token, expected this, followed by a type, but it never sort of found the type. Lib.cairo const number equals to 3. This is the line with the problem. So how do we solve this problem? And that's actually under line 1. So this is a constant that we are trying to define. As I said, we have like variables and constants. So constants are denoted or instantiated with the const keyword, and variables are instantiated with the let keyword. Of course, they are not like directly variable as this variable. You have to introduce mute if you want to change the value of that variable at some point in your block. So why is this one failing? Whenever you are trying to define constants, you will need to initialize or give them the types that they belong to. Otherwise, because this sort of, it has to know the type in development or during building phase. And in this case, it failed to identify the type of number, that is the const number, during its building phase. If you have gone through Rust a bit, you will realize, I'm sorry, but I am still not clear on how to submit the assignment. Am I forking the repo link posted? So I'll get back to that one in a moment. It can be Zoom. Samuel, is the screen visible to you? Like in terms of, or should I sort of increase this value once more? I'm at 200%, so some things might be cut off the screen, but I'll try scroll left, right. So, okay, this kind of really large. I'm not sure whether it will be visible fully. I believe it is. So we are at the variables part 6, and in this case we are dealing with constants. So we need to define or solve the problem that we have here. So what we need to do here is to introduce the type of our number 3. So this can be anything, including from U8 to a U256. So that's part of the data types that team had covered earlier. And if you go through the data types, you realize that we have like something like a U8, then we have a U16 to U32 to U64 to U128 to U256. One thing you need to realize here, each of these has like its own use case. And let me explain the use cases. For example, you don't want to assign your storage variable, maybe a U256, and only you are tracking numbers between 1 to 100. No, that's like giving a lot of memory to something that's not going to even reach that value. So the use case in of U256 usually is to track tokens or the token values, because token values can range anything between 1 to a value that has like 24 decimals. So that's why we use like U256. Same with U128. So don't like allocate a variable or your memory to use like a U128, yet your value is a small value. We have U64. U64 is good to storing things like timestamps, because a timestamp is a U64. So that's its use case. U32, U16, and U8, usually for smaller numbers. So they have like their values where they lie between. For example, U8 is an 8-bit integer, so it will just run between some values. Yeah, so they have like their largest point they can reach. And also, if you have, you are going to encounter a large number, always sort of use a larger data type. So let's proceed to solve the error here. So here we had let num3, so can do something like U32 here. And I'll explain this. I will explain why this one worked and the other one failed. So I'm going to compile this one. I think I'm still having some issues somewhere. So let small number 3 underscore U8. So for this case, I'm going to just do here U8. Don't don't change the value of this constant. Okay, we are not supposed to change the value of the constant, but we can change the variable itself or the other part of the other portion of this part. So we have successfully compiled these two. And another thing, why did I allocate here a U8 and here U32? So here we have a U8 because we have already specified that one here. If I try to sort of change this one to something else, let's see what we get. So I'm going to compile this code again. So here we are going to get something like small, okay, the problem here is type mismatch, core integer U8 and core integer U16. So that's the problem. Like you cannot just mix out the types. For example, here we have said a U16, but here we have specified the type as a U8. So this is another way of just defining your variables. So for constants, you have to give the type here colon, then the type. Otherwise, for variables, you can just simply do 3 underscore U8. For example, here, let's say we had let x equals to 2 underscore U8. So this one for variables, it will just work. It doesn't need to know the type. It will just infer. But for constants, you have to pass in the exact type that you intend your constant to have. So that's for constants. I don't know whether there are any other questions as we have covered the types through. Of course, we have not like, okay, these are variables, not like the types themselves for sure, but just for variables, not like the entire range of data types. But at least it has covered the integers and the field 252. Don't know whether there are any other questions through. So can't really see any questions. Then I think let me solve this one and return it to the right value, to the rightful value of it. Compile. Okay, still having my error here. What is it now? Oh, okay. So here we are having consider ignoring by prefixing with an underscore. So if you have some variable or some value that some constant, okay, constants usually don't really complain that much, but for variables, they have to complain. And if you have a variable that you are not using, just prefix it with an underscore as it has shouted here for us. That way you will have sort of gotten rid of just hanging values. So next we have these primitives. And for this one, I'm going to let Tim take us through. So Tim, the floor is yours.
We are unable to see Tim's screen. Probably you can continue sharing your screen, Dalmas. All
Yeah,
right, yes.
Tim will be up in a moment.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Isaac,
yeah.
Isaac.
Yeah, yeah. Just completing variable 5, which I've already covered. Maybe just copy paste to me so I continue with primitive. So if we just catch up with the last code was for I was still on variables before my screen hung. So on this one, as Mike said, just need to just complete it, a repetition of what he has done. Then I can let number it was 1, and then can print I can print the line of the number. So print line basically for string, so it needs to be in double quotes. Then I can say, for example, the number is, then I put this marks, then a forward slash, the variable itself, it was called number. Then this same line, I can also
Tim,
just give this.
your screen is not visible.
Just a moment, let me present one more time. Can you can you see my screen? I hope now it's clear. So these two exercise diagrams are already covered, so let me just first go through them. Just to remind you the syntax of how you can print something. You can either use this where you just say the number dot print, or you can actually just go, may not have this, just put the print line brackets, then you put the double quotes and say, for example, number is equals to then the variable name. So line 5 and 6, they all do the same functionality. Just something which is compiled to see which error this is. So just repeat it. Let me just try and compile this. Put all these pieces here. Just compile it. Plugin diagnosed one positive again format but only two again. Something went wrong. So what could be wrong here? Print line, number, whatever. You know, this variable, what could be wrong? Just a moment. Missing semicolon. Ah, yes. That's something important. At least we have noted here the semicolons. Let's compile them. I failed to compile. Plug in one positional argument in form, but only one argument. So there's an error we have cannot assign to an immutable number. I don't know if I really something else. I think the problem here was we failed to reassign the let.
So there we have let number equals to something, and we have a problem with the number is cal braces number on line 6. So you have moved your quotes out to the end of the line, that should be before the comma. So
Aha, exactly. This is good to
line
have
6.
a good mistake here to have made.
So there you might have missed it. So you only need to move the quotes to after the cal bracket, the closing cal bracket, not
Yes,
at the end of the line.
because that's a nice one to observe because this is the string itself, then the number is actually the variable.
The variable that will be replaced there.
Exactly. I think that's something keen to note also. You don't make same errors, the variable, then also the semicolons at the end. So let's try compile it to see if it will actually work now.
Team, I don't know whether your network is networking. You can try check whether it's right. Don't know.
This is correct because now the semicolons. Let me try refresh. Let's reload this page. Compile. Number, print line number, variable, the number is 3. If you think here, just put in the letter. Number, number. Let's compile this. Very nice. So that one has compiled. And go to the next challenge. So const number 3, then const small number, it's 3, Count small number is 3 of type U8. I said don't change this, don't change the value of this constant. Then the function, the main entry function, which is main. Then it says print line number is equals to the variable, this memory for the variable and the variable name itself. Then print line small number is equals to small number. So const number. So const number, since number and small number, I think these are different to make that distinction. So a number we can allocate it. I can allocate it some bigger value like a U32, and then for the small number it's already U8. Let's see if it will run. You can use it as syntax here at the front, just after the variable name, colon, then the U8, or you can actually use underscore 08. So let us try compile it to see if this will actually work. For small number U8, that will just use the default way that we are using U. Let's say U8. Oops, sorry. U8. Yes, I just assign that data type here. Then if we must use this again, let's see if it will use this. Okay, if I just don't change the value of this, until let me just leave it here. U8. A small number, I've added just the data type U38. For this one, I've also added the data type to be U8, and I've left the value the same, something which I had overlooked. And now I want to print line the number, its variable, and the small number and its variable. Let's compile it to say now. Should work. Very nice. So it was just a matter of adding the data types. Now we can proceed to primitive types. So in this function, it has the entry function called main boolean. Then is boolean, they have specified the default will be true. Then it has a function conditional. If is morning, print line good morning. Then let finish the rest of the line like the example, or or make it or make it be like the exam, or make it be false. So if is evening, print line good evening. So as we all know, in Cairo you have to initiate a value. Like you can see, is morning had already been initiated default to be true. So we can also do the same for is evening. We can just say is underscore evening, and we make it default to be true, because it's boolean. Boolean basically means true or false. So if it's not true, it will be, it's not true, it will be false. If it's not, if is morning is false, then it will call is even if it says evening. If this one is false, it will call the morning function. Can't be the same at one point of time. They are like opposites, true and false, one and zeros. So let's compile this code and see if it will work. Where each semicolon is even in true or yes. Always remember the semicolon again. Let's compile that. Very nice. That one has compiled. So we can go to the next primitive. This one is a bit long. Fill in the rest of the line that has the code missing, no hints. Okay. A short string is a string whose length is at most 31 characters and therefore cannot fit into a single field element. Short strings are actually fields. They are not a real string. Note the single quotes that are used with short strings, just as I mentioned before. Single quotes. Then short strings are actually fields and not real strings. Okay. So what is missing here? They have initialized the first variable, which is called my first initial to be letter C. Then they have said if is alphabetic reference my first initial, then print line alphabetical. So that means if this is alphabetical, I assume it's a boolean, which I have said, see if it's true, you reference this variable called my first initial, then you print the line alphabetical. Else, if is numeric, so that's another function or boolean we get to sit. Is numeric, you reference a variable called my first initial and you print the line numerical. So if I'm not wrong, my first initial, no, is alphabetic, maybe it should return a alphabetical value, then is numerical should return a numerical. Else, if it's none of them, it's not alphabetic, or if it's not numeric, you should print neither alphabetic or numeric. So is alphabetical, I assume is the functions, then my first initial, these are just variables. So then here's the challenge. Let finish this line like the example, like the example, try a letter, a number, try a special character, try a short string. Try a short string, you can scroll behind. So here's the function. So actually if alphanumeric character, print line alphanumerical, else is numeric, ref your character, else print. Then if you scroll down, you have the functions itself. If alphanumerical character boolean, yeah, just as we had said earlier, this is where the functions were actually defined. Then on top is where they are just referenced, like the function is alphabetic, remember, which returns a boolean, true or false. The same way as the other functions we read is numerical, true or false. Then they tell us, note, the following code is not part of the challenge. There is probably a string, a short string, direct file comparison. So these are just implementations. So in this example of ours, where they tell from line like 34, this was just the actual definition of the functions is alphabetic. We have seen how they are worked. It's just basically checks for characters. Is numerical, basically just checks for if they are integers. Then they were defined here on top. But here now, they're asking us to complete. So you can see here they're saying on line 22, it says ref your character, but they haven't defined this variable. So the best thing to do here is finish finish out, just define this variable, your character. So I can call it, can, can make it mutable, first of all. Then I give it the same name. I call it just your character. Then I can give it any character. Let me call it, for example, since that's string, let me just call it Starknet. Let me just call it Starknet. So something is wrong here. Then something is wrong here. Please put it in double quotes. We call it Starknet. Is correct. It's a reference. Now the actual definition will be here. Let's first try this out. If it gives an error, we'll continue debugging. Mismatch the type call file cannot be created from a string, literal. Let mute your character finish this line like example. What could I have missed in this line? The character and then fix the code failed to compile mismatched type. Which type is the first 24? Let's just try it one more time. Let's try maybe another character like, let's say C, a normal character which we have used before. Maybe in this case the problem must be the quotation marks. Actually, let me just first change it to single quote. But let's just try. Let's see. Something went wrong with your code. Failed to missing token termination. Have I not semicolon? Semicolon always. So semicolon. The problem is the semicolon. Actually, we can even use our format to example, even if it's double quote, because as I mentioned earlier, Starknet only uses double or single quotes, so that's not the problem. And also, it's a hard typed language, so the semicolon at the end. Let's try that. This should work. So some of the small bugs you will encounter when you're building. Don't don't get too surprised or worried. It happens. But it's easy. Cairo is an easy language. Mismatch type core file cannot be created from a string line. Oh yes. So this is for strings, but as they told us in the code, it's a felt. So let's just put single quote and just a single character instead of a string. Next, that one has completed. We can go to another primitive. They say destructure the cat tuple to call print on each line. Destructure is another data type called the tuple. So tuples majorly so so tuples tuples majorly contain various. It's a data type which can contain like two variables. It's like an array, but but can contain different data types. For example, if you see uh, data types, for example, an array, if it's an array containing just numbers, it will contain just numbers. Can only contain be like this, or it can be an array containing maybe just strings. That's an array. But for tuples, you can find it can contain both integers and strings. That's called a tuple. So for this data type, it's the challenge. Function main, let cat, then they have assigned Fury mark first one, and they have assigned the number 3. Don't change this line. Then they have told you destructure the cat tuple to call the print on each line. So in order to do that, the structuring is quite simple. All you need to do is now the values within cat, you can assign them variables because these are actual values. You can see this is the name of someone, and you can see this is the age, like an age, the name and the age. These are the variables. So what you can do in order to destructure it, you just put brackets and then put the variables inside its name, age. Then you can say you assign it cat. Then remember this time the semicolon. Let's compile this code and see if it runs. Yes, that one has worked. So This one is said modify the integer types to make the test pass. Learn how to convert between integer types and fields. One thing you need to remember, fields are fields to 52, 52. And the integers, they have the U8, U16, U64. So fields are majorly larger than integers. So let's check out this code. Function sum to do modify the types. Modify the on line 16, on line 5 I mean, modify the types of this function to prevent an overflow. So it says function big, it has x, u8 and y u8, and then it says it's returning a u8 for x plus y. Then you also have the same function. So this one is saying function some big numbers, big numbers. The big numbers are x and y, yet they are 0.8. Okay. Then you also have the function convert to fields. Let's take an overview. Then you also have the test. So it's basically not long, just the tests that are mean. It's basically like some three functions. Some big number, convert to fields, then convert to U8. So for this one, sum to big number, I think the sum to big to do return x as a field to 56 to 52. Good. Start with some big numbers. Modify the type of this function to prevent an overflow when summing big numbers. So remember U8 is quite small, so what we can do in order to compensate for all large numbers, as I told you, fields are bigger than integers. Let's first start off by converting the return type to be a field to 52. Oops, to 52. Then you have here the parameters x and y. I think it would also be better so that we work with the same data type. We also convert them to fields. Like this function that we have convert to fields. So return x as a field. So the basic thing we'll do here for the x and y, because we are reassigning the values, we'll use let first to mutate them. Then we can call now this function on line 10, which we have not yet as yet completed. Show you how complete. We can just say convert. Just actually copy it. Yeah, convert to field. And we assign the same value which was there, which was x. Always remember the semicolon. Then you can also say let y. We'll call the same value convert to field. Within it, you can put in y. And always remember the semicolon. Then for this function, which we are calling up here, convert to a field. So it's an x, and we want to convert it back to a field. So in order to do that, in Cairo we have some two type convert functions to convert values. For example, you want to convert from a small value, a field, to from a big value to a small value. For example, a field to 56 to an integer. And sometimes if you want to convert maybe a big value to a small value, or you want to convert a smaller value to a big value, in the Cairo book we have two functions. There's into and try into. So if you want to convert from a small value to a big value, it's into. So just say x dot into. That one you can have that you could have converted this into your x. Then for this one, you're trying to convert now a felt, a big number into a smaller memory space. The analogy I take is a big thing to a small one you can just enter into. But for a big one to a small one you have to try. So for this what you'll do is just specify x dot try underscore into, and then we need to unbox it. So in order to unbox it in Cairo, use the function unwrap. Unwrap. Let's try test this code out. No, I remember these are default functions, so I need to like actually import them. So if you want to use the into and try into, are things called traits. So you can just say trait. No problem. Then you say into. This is how you import stuff in Cairo. You can also import the try into. Then because of importing, I don't know if this will allow on this platform, let's see. If it won't allow, we'll also go for a manual option without having to import this library. But I think it's also good to introduce you to how to import stuff. Consider ignoring prefix. Something went wrong with let's just fast. Let's try this way. Taking some time to run the tests. What is this thing? It's the first error that one I can debug. Identify not found, that was just a small typo. Let x and use consider ignoring prefix with x or I please convert to not to first. Never use them, it was sum, so just do x plus y. Let's try this again. One typo. Oh, I did that undraw. Mm-hmm. X that turn into that undraw. What's the matter different? So wait a minute. Where is it failing here? Here's the first error. Method unwrap not found on type option. Did you import the correct check? Oh, my screen even has hung. So what did you say? Method unwrap not found on type option. Did you mean to correct the correct straight? X dot try into dot unwrap. X dot try into dot wrap. Alternatively, click over. So let's see here. It tells me and then one x dot try underscore into dot unwrap. I think I've imported the right traits. Use straight into, then there's the try into, then there's the option trait. I'm not sure why this one is failing. Should work. Hope something was in. Method unwrap not found on. Try into dot unwrap. Error unexpected type core failed found U8. So here's one error. Expected argument of type failed to 52 but found integer of U8. This is in which line? In 34. 34 is test. It's an interesting one. 2523 what U in something went wrong. Maybe someone could guide me here. Maybe someone could guide me here. Method. Because I see I've imported both the traits. Created all traits, the into, the try into, the option trait.
So let me handle that one. I think I will present my screen. Or oh, actually, let's use your screen. So
Just use my screen.
yeah, so on line 11, you can have like on line 10, the return value should be u32 and the value of x and y should be u32, like the parameters all should be u32s.
So in short,
Reason
I
why our
convert
test value, that's 35, is taking 255 and okay, 254 underscore u8. That's an 8-bit integer, and of course we know u8 ends at 255, but the return value cannot be a u8 also. Reason being, now 255 plus 255 is sort of higher than what the maximum U8 can handle. So we also return a U32. So you can change the online 10
So I can first
X
change this to at least
U32
32.
Y, yeah, and the return value should be U32. So we don't need to have like line 11 and 12, X and Y can do.
And just do it x plus y, isn't it?
Nice. Then on line 34, I'll assert sum underscore big underscore numbers. So that should be 255 underscore U32. So there the to do is modify this test to use the correct integer types. So we have already modified from our function.
Oh,
So also there we modify
to
U32.
you
Yeah.
actually before we do this, changing this U38, just a more. Oh, can I modify the test instead? I
Yeah,
leave
you
them
can
as
modify the
I leave
test.
them I leave them actually. You see the way it was here? Wait a moment, let me
U8.
just control Z before I do that. You see it was felt 8. Try modify these types of the function to prevent an overflow. So for example, maybe let's assume these ones were just still the U8 that they were, isn't it? But just in case, because you
Yeah.
have converted them to felt. It was a large number, even if it was 255 bits, and it
Yes.
ends with felt. What if I remain with this? Instead, this return type, I just also convert it maybe to a felt by removing that U8. See, things will have been the same. The inputs are still U8, but
Yeah.
the result, maybe I increase the size, I convert it now from U8 to felt. Let's me try this first to see if this would work.
Okay.
So this means we have left the parameters the same, but the result is what we have changed so it can accommodate big numbers. Then I've changed it in the function, some big numbers and also in the test.
Oh, and actually, so instead of us moving to like a large number that's a U32, then you can use something smaller like a U16. That's the next one to U8,
Oh,
which has more bits. So instead of now U32, actually U16 will be more memory efficient as compared to U32 because U32 will sort of try to allocate the 32, all those things, but rather we only need a smaller segment of the same.
for sure, for sure. So should I just modify it now? I see if it will run fast.
Uh, I don't
Even
believe
though
if it
this,
will run. Oh, you changed the return type here to 510. Okay. I'm not sure.
yes,
Maybe test that one out.
it's just you see, it will happen.
Okay.
I've noticed data types. There's the usual way of defining them, like in line 5, where you say the variable colon, then the data type, for example, x colon u8. Then there's this kind of funny syntax also it has on like line 35. where you have written 255 underscore U8.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that should work actually, because you are returning felt 252, and also there you have converted your values x and y to felt 252s. But for that
Um,
one won't help us like achieve the main goal that was using integers.
for sure.
That's why we sort of had to move to U16 to capture the integers.
I wish it would run faster. I just see if this one passes, then we also try the other method. As I said, there are many ways of killing a cat.
Yep.
See both ways. It's taking its sweet time, giving us time to absorb all we have learned. Then guys, if you don't want to use the browser, you can also just use it directly from your VS Code. I'll show you the GitHub. Okay. It's called Starknet. This one. This is the repo. You can actually just also run it internally, just in case the web browser takes its sweet time like now.
I think you might need to reload your browser in that case, but you'll have to sort of now rewrite your functions again. That's the catch.
Let's try this one. Two. So, time now. I've decided to rewrite my function. So this one, try to prevent overflow. Let me try this first. Should method, then we'll go to the better one. So let me just say convert this to felt 252 return type. Then on this line also make sure the test also is also a felt. It's also a felt. So that will then this one also I wanted to have converted them to felt. So I can just call this function here below. Now that I'll fill it up, conversion to felt. Remember the semicolon, then I can also put the y. I say conversion to felt, semicolon. Then on the function itself, conversion to felt. Since the parameter is an x, I just say x dot into function. Then this one is converting out the felt to an h. So since the parameter is an x, I can just use the same x try underscore into the end. Then I can unwrap it. Then I can remember to import the necessary libraries. So in here, we just use Then I can import the traits, the into trait, the option trait. Let me first start off by importing traits into. Then I copy paste this. And also import the try into. You can also import the options. So the sum big number, I think I've imported the traits, the sum big into. I've also so what I've done, I've imported these traits. I've converted this to fields. I've completed the function of convert to field. Also converted to U8 and have modified the return type for on the test. So let us test it out now. Oops, failed identifiers not found. Okay, so it seems it doesn't this. Should I remove all these imports? Can you see our time is up? This is
Uh-huh. Tim, somebody in the
sometimes
comment section, can you
yes.
hear me?
Yes,
Someone
I
on the
can hear
comment
you.
section is saying they have been able to solve the issue, so they just wanted to contribute on how on their workaround.
Very nice. Please
Unfortunately,
let them contribute too.
sorry.
Yes, let them go ahead, contribute.
All
Show us how they
right.
have solved it
I don't
with
know
their
their
method.
name. Yeah, they're using some signals, but kindly join the studio so that you can show us how you worked your solution through.
Ah, I've done some foolish mistake here. I haven't even, as I wait for them to join.
I'm not sure if they've seen the link. I'm not even sure if he's making any efforts to join the studio.
To give them some time. Can also join in short and be very nice. So, Dalmas, in the meantime, you can also use your approach. This one seems to have failed.
Tim, I think
Yes,
let me give you a hand there. So I'll share my
yes,
screen and
yes,
go through it.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let me try to get my entire screen up. Just a moment. Yeah. So I think my screen is up and running. So I'll go back to, is it, uh, yeah, this one, primitives 4, right? Yeah. So if we look at this, I think my screen is up and running. I'm not sure. Someone can confirm. Yeah.
Sure it
So
is.
So in this primitives 4, we had a few things to do. The first one we had our to do here, modify the types of this function to prevent an overflow when summing big values. So we have been asked to change the values. So just a moment, I adjust my, I'm not sure where, oh yeah, it's working. Let me just adjust this to, I think 150 is good. Yeah. So we are supposed to modify the data types in order for this function to be able to handle the right numbers. So if we go down a bit, we realize this is the test that we are going to work on. So this test summary, so if okay, I have to zoom out again. Yep, I think that one we can be able to see both the test and the method. So the function we have or the method we have here is called sum big numbers, and it has been used down here under the test sum big numbers. And we have been given here like this value takes in 255 as a U8, 255 as another U8. Then the result is 510 U underscore U8. But if you have gone through how these integers work, the integers have like their max value they can reach. For example, a U8 can only reach up to 255. That's like number 255. Anything above that will result to an overflow. So for example, we know 255 U8, 255 U8 is 510, of course, but it can't be a U8. So this will result to an overflow, making our function to fail completely. So let's just quickly fix these ones. So try into dot and wrap. So for type conversion, this one usually is not that heavy, but this is for the direct types, of course. We know exactly what we want. Sometimes it can be really hectic if you sort of find yourself in a given state. So this is what we have for these two, but if we try to run this test, they will fail because of this first test, like test some big numbers. So these two, method there will sort of, the value does not fit within the range of type called integer U8. So that's the problem of the current state of this test. But we have been told we need to modify the types of this function to prevent an overflow. We already know what our test looks like, but we should not just be avoiding like that. Usually when you do your program, just make sure you know exactly the integers you are dealing with to avoid allocating lots and lots of memory or less memory. For this case, it's less memory, so we need to update this one to U16s. That's like larger than U8, at least has more values. I think to about, is it 1.2 million? I'm not sure, but we'll confirm that one later on. It's sort of larger than a U8, more than like 255. So we have that one here. Then we also need to change the way this function works. So for this case, we only need to change this to one to a U16, and that one we also fix it to like that. So we have changed this data type from the other, from a U8 to a U16 in order for read to handle large numbers. And if we do run the test, then we realize that they just pass through. So I believe team has covered a lot and we are out of time, but we have remained with a few tasks that have remained here. And the team had introduced most of this, like the way they are, except I can say enums. But this one will be covered the moment we start working with I think the next class will have like a session where we do a simple program in Cairo that uses all these things that we have learned here today, or that utilizes all these things, that's variables, constants, the primitives, and also a number of these, including functions. So we also cover enums and something called structs with the traits. But for now, we have covered up to this point. I believe now it's for you, the student, to go ahead and try and check whether you can be able to handle the remaining functions, the remaining tests. If you have been following through like you have done from intro to intro to primitives types 4, then you can be able to handle the rest, I believe. So try those out. But if you have any questions, you can post them also. We answer them before we call it a day.
Oh, that's quite insightful, Dalmas. You've said it well. If somebody has a question today, we have invited one of our learners to the studio. It's called Dean. Dean, you can go ahead and speak. Just allow your microphone. Share with us probably your experience, how you find it, how you worked around it.
Good evening. So I was able to. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, for the primitive type 4, I was able to complete it by just changing for the big number. Of course, for the sum U8, I didn't do anything than just to put the type to be U8, U8. For the big number, I didn't touch it much. It was just the type. Then for the oh sorry, immediately I ran it. So for the big number, I just changed it to U 56, 56 for everything. Then to convert it, I changed for the convert to felt. I just return x dot into that will convert small to I, and then to convert the felt to U8, I just return s dot try into dot unwrap, and then for the test, I think the test was where the issue was. So the first test was will pass, which is test sum U8, because 1 and 2 is already 3. Then for the test sum big number, I only needed to change the 255, then U256, then also the second one U 56, And then the 510, I'll change it to U56 also. I think that was all I did, and then it all passed.
Uh, that's quite nice, Dean. Yeah, that's like right the way you handled it. But I can say so you do realize now you just handle it's like set it to U256, yet that's quite large. If you look at it, that's kind of several zeros ahead. But
Yes.
yeah, that's right to handle any range of large numbers, which is quite also like to look for the other, like your program might be receiving that kind of numbers. Thank you so much, Dean, for that.
Thank you, sir.
Don't know whether anybody else, do you have any question, Dean, or anybody else who has a question can drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I'll let it flow back to Harriet.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Dalmas team, for the presentation. It's been quite an educative session. I actually look forward to the next class because now we'll understand how to write a program tentatively. Our program is going to be the smart contract. We'll see how we are going to utilize the data types, the variables, yeah, the integers. We will know how to do them all in the smart contract. So I really look forward to the coming session. Thank you so much for that. We are also happy about Dean's input. At least we know he was following, we're together, and yeah, it's also another perspective which we can look at how to resolve challenges that we face. So I just think our time is far much spent. Probably I can just welcome Chimeri. Chimeri is the community manager of Beach in Africa. I can just say a few words and then we can close this session. Thank you. Over to you, Chimeri. Okay, I think probably we just have to end today's session. We look forward to meeting you again on Wednesday, same time. Yeah, so you are supposed to fork the GitHub repo for Beach in Africa. There are also other GitHub repo that have been provided, like for Startlink. That one you use for reference. Yeah, it's quite resourceful. The Starklink GitHub repo. You can always visit the place to 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 do researches. But for the Beach in Africa, that is where you submit your assignment. Then the instructors will have an opportunity to review your code once you create a pull request. Yeah, thank you. I hope you're answered. That is Dean. Yeah, I hope you're answered. So thank you everybody for showing up. Let's connect again on Wednesday, same time. Did the instructor leave an assignment for today's class? Team, Dalmas?
Yeah, so we were covering through stack links and we reached the primitive types 4. So just proceed to cover the operations downwards. And also for your assignment, just write a simple calculate application based on, we have covered, I think we had some functions here to add, subtract. Oh, actually they are under operations. So once you cover that one, like you do those tests or you do those exercises, then you can be able to go ahead and cover the writing a simple calculate application. And this application is just a couple of functions, for example, to multiply, divide, and like the common math operations. So just to work on this, then do a simple calculator. Do all the things that we have in the so-called body mass. That is, we have division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction, and also things like modulus. I think here we have modulus here, and we have something called, okay, the function here is called flat division, And somebody might ask, why is it flat division or floor division? In Cairo, somehow, it is sort of rounds out of everything back to the lower number, not upwards. So if I were to come here, for example, and try to do like, I think I will opt to write a simple function here, for example, divide. And this function takes in a u, okay, x as a u8 and y as a u8, then it will return a u8 as the result. So if I have this and sort of do x, y, like my return values, I think, okay, I'm not sure why this thing is not working, but let's have the result here. Let res equals to divide. I want us to divide between 9 and 3, of course. So if I try to print this value, like division or result, and pass in the, okay, I need to pass in the curly braces. Don't forget the curly braces whenever you are doing your debug prints. And I say here res, and I run this program under the scab Cairo run command. You realize it will only sort of print, oh, actually this one will just work out. So let's use a number that we know will result to a fraction. So you realize this will only return 2. That's why in the test you'll come up, or you'll come across this thing called flat division. So Cairo does not know about the decimal points, but when we will be writing our smart contracts, I'll be able to show you how to handle decimal points. Decimal points, I mean, whenever somebody is transferring tokens, they only want to transfer 0.001 of ETH, but you don't have 0.001 of ETH in your, you can't like handle that in Cairo. So how do you handle that? That one will be coming up next. So yeah, just cover the operations 1, operations 2, and another of these tests or exercises, then try to do your calculate application through. So once you have done your calculate application there in your Cairo code, share it using, just clone the bchain assignments, I think the bchain repo, then do your new, just go. So what you, okay, let me just show you something. So once you clone the repo, then create your own, like not cloning, but for
Branch.
cloning, then do your own branch, name it your name, like your full name. Reason why you name it your full name is to be, I believe we don't have like similar names right now. So if you do it with your full name, then your branch will be unique. Then all those branches will be matched. And also for your, like the folders you'll be using, name your folder like with your full name also of your assignment. That one will make it easy to merge to the main branch for review, or actually even review those branches individually. So yeah, that's it from me. So the next class will be covering that program, of course, but a different one, slightly different, and also introduction to smart contracts. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you, Dalmas. Thank you. That is quite informative. We appreciate our time is fast spent, so I think we just end this session. Let's connect on Wednesday, same time, on the same platform. The YouTube links will be shared through our WhatsApp group and emails, just the way you've been receiving them. So thank you so much. Have a good night.